If you are looking for something new and different for the upcoming Compliance Week celebration in November, check out The Compliance Kids. It's my 3-book children's series on compliance and compliance professionals for children. But they make great gifts and great training tools for your employees. You can check it out on Amazon.com. We've linked to it in the show notes. The Compliance Tip of the Day. This is the podcast where we bring you daily insights and practical advice on navigating the ever-evolving landscape of compliance requirements. Whether you're a seasoned compliance professional or just starting your journey, my aim in this podcast is to provide you with a bite-sized, actionable tip to help you stay on top of your compliance game. Join us as we explore the latest trends from the Department of Justice, share some best practices, demystify complex compliance issues to help keep your organization doing business ethically and in compliance, and at the end of the day, more profitably. Tune in daily for your dose of compliance wisdom. Let's make compliance a little less daunting, one tip at a time. Now a word from the sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
On today's Compliance Tip of the Day, I conclude my week-long exploration of lessons learned from the TD Bank AML BSA enforcement action. Today I want to focus on the penalty on restrictions on growth. The consent order required the bank to maintain in their total consolidated assets at or below the amount reported as of September 30. This mandate prevents the bank from increasing their average total consolidated assets beyond this until they achieve compliance with all of the actionable articles of the consent order. The total consolidated assets will be measured against the bank's respective reports going forward. This asset restriction is not the first time we've seen this. It put in place against Wells Fargo. However, in this case, the deputy controller has the discretion to temporarily suspend the asset cap in event of unusual circumstances. But if the bank fails to meet its compliance deadline, then the comptroller may require an additional reduction of up to 7%. If the bank is notified this reduction is necessary, they must submit a plan for the comptroller's approval, and it must be implemented within 60 days. This is only the second time the federal banking agency has slapped such handcuffs on a financial institution's growth. As I mentioned, the first was Wells Fargo. However, Wells Fargo had the cap remain in place much longer than expected, and here the OCC wants to put additional restrictions on TD Bank to make sure that they not only get the message but do so. So what are the takeaways? Well, the OCC penalty on growth restriction is clearly something the regulators are going to use going forward. Second is the regulators can be creative with their penalties in ways that we may not have considered at this point, so be prepared for it. And then greater scrutiny. Regulators are demanding greater scrutiny for companies as they are implementing the compliance programs laid out in the consent order. We didn't go through the requirements in the OCC consent order, but they're very robust and they're very detailed as to the types of compliance that needs to be put in place. So I think this will be a feature of AML and BSA enforcement action consent orders going forward, where you have this type of behavior and actions by a financial institution going forward. I hope you've enjoyed these lessons learned from TD Bank. This is Tom Fox again. This new podcast, Compliance Tip of the Day, will appear daily. And frankly, it's one of the most requested topics for a podcast that I get on a regular basis. It's going to be short and sweet with one tip with some takeaways that you can utilize to implement into your compliance program. If you've got a question that you would like a tip on, please submit them through our website, and we will use them in an upcoming episode. The compliance tip of the day is a production of the award-winning Compliance Podcast Network. Finally, this podcast contains promotional materials.